Audrey had never been before pressed this intimately to a man. She had never thought that the balls of his manhood pressed between her thighs could make her feel so weak with desire. Idinidikta na matinong kaisipan at tumayo siya at awatin si Lloyd sa ginagawa nito. But passion never before experienced imprisoned her senses. Pinaralisan ng pagnanasa ang anumang pagnanais na kumawala mula sa mga bisig nito. When he wildly thrust his tongue once more, deeply, rhythmically, she moaned. She had never dreamed that a kiss could be so intimate and so arousing, or that something so near violence could be so erotic. Hindi niya mapigil ang sariling hindi damahin ang dibdib nito. Hindi may paliwanag ni Audrey ang kasiyahang nadama. Di siya makapaniwalang kaya niyang ibigay ang ganong kasiyahan dito tulad ng ginagawa nito sa kanya. Inulit niya iyon. He commanded. Huminto sa paghinga si Audrey nang hawakan ni Lloyd ang kamay niya at higiya iyon pababa. Beneath his jeans, the steely hard maleness was seeking to be freed. Lloyd, take me in, sweetheart. Take me in, he whispered roughly. Fumbling the buttons of her pajama top, itinaas ni Lloyd ang katawan mula sa kama. The desire to taste her, to take those twin buds in his mouth overrode the pain in his back. Audrey made him feel again, and to feel pain, hindi ang uring sakit na kasama nito sa nakalipas sa 5 taong mahigit. It was a different kind of pain. His mouth still fused with hers when he reversed their position. Sa propesyon ni Audrey bilang doktor, human anatomy was as ordinary as breathing. She had asked naked male patients in their normal state, and then in their half arousal and full arousal, but never in her life had she seen a man in full grip of desire. Biglang nanuyo ang lalamunan niya. It probably wouldn't work. Inihagis ni Lloyd ang pantalon sa ibaba ng kama. Beautiful! Usal nito sa namamaa sa tinig habang pinaglalakbay ang mga mata mula sa mukha niya pababa. Pinakawalan ni Audrey ang mga labi mula sa pag-aangkin nito, and when he tried to catch her lips again, she held his face with her hands. Lloyd, please! Audrey, darling, he said in agony. You won't stop me now, will you? Bahagya na siyang umiling. Natitiyak niyang kapag tumanggi siya ngayon, alam niyang hindi siya nito pipilitin. But she realized in that very moment that she had loved this man. That she wanted to give him what he wanted if it would keep his demons away, if it would take his pains away. I want you, Lloyd, she said, and saw pleasure cross his eyes along with his fierce desire to take her. I've never felt this way with any man, but I want to tell you that, Aljun, it mattered something unintelligible. Hindi ko gusto makarinig ng pangalan ng ibang lalaki sa sandaling to, Audrey. I want to make love to you right this very moment, or I would die. He nudged her thighs with his legs, and before he could make a thrust, Audrey said in a hurry, I never had a man in my life, Lloyd. Lloyd went dead still as the words registered in his passion-hazed mind. Disbelief in his eyes as he gazed down at her. Virgin! He closed his eyes tightly and clenched his teeth. Ibinagsak ang sarili sa ibabaw ni Audrey. He groaned painfully as he gathered her in his arms. Kung may natitiramang pagpipigil sa sarili upang makawala sa kalagayang iyon, sinisikap niyang abutin. But what she said did not even diminish his arousal. Sa ibang pagkakataon, he would appreciate her innocence, amazed by it, felt honored by it. Pero hindi sa sandaling iyon. Not after so many years of living in celibacy. Audrey, I don't think I can stop. He made a strangled sound. Naglamasan ng mga ugat sa kamao niya nang daklutin niyang unan sa ibabaw ng ulo nito. I don't want you to stop, Lloyd, Audrey whispered lovingly. She felt him shuddered. She raised her hips to him. Agad na napatid ang gahiblang pagpipigil sa sarili ni Lloyd. Hinagilap nito ang mga labi niya at pariin siyang hinagkan. Impatient hands swept over her body roughly. Gusto niyang pagbigyan ng sariling damhin ang katawan nito. Feel the soft and silky skin. Feel the warm body. Subalit kapag nagtagal pa siya ng 1 minuto, bibigyan niya ng kahihiyan ng sarili. Minsan ang nangyari sa buhay niya iyon when he was 14, his first time. He tried to gentle his movements for her but he could not. With one wild thrust, he entered her and muffled her cry with his mouth. Her thrust deeper and deeper, and then stopped. He heard her sigh of relief. He grimaced, hating himself for hurting her, but there was no other way to do it. He drove again, and again, and again. Isang maluwag na paghinga ang pinakawalan ni Audrey. Nakatitig siya sa kisame, while Lloyd's heavy weight lay on her. His body still joined to hers, giving her the feeling of uncomfortable fullness. She was a matured woman and a doctor for that matter, and she had known it had to hurt the first time. Pero kinamangha pa rin niya ang ganong uri ng discomfort and the feeling of being stretched too far. Naramdaman niya ang pagpatak na mainit na bagay sa balikat niya. Then Lloyd dropped to her side, taking her with him. Nakaunan siya sa dibdib nito. His body shook gently. She raised her head to look at him. His eyes were closed tightly and there were tears rolling down his cheeks. Hindi ito nagmulat ang mga mata, subalit kinabig siyang muli nito pahiga sa sarili nitong dibdib. Ang kamay nito'y humahagod sa buhok niya at pagkatapos, naramdaman niya mga labi nito sa ulo niya. Hindi niya alam kung ano ang sasabihin. She was hurting all over. Tila pinaghati-hati ang katawan niya, and she was confused. Gusto niyang abutin si Lloyd at makihati sa dinaramdam nito, but she gave him the privacy of his sorrow. Umaasa siyang kahit papaano, nabawasan ang kapaitang nadarama nito. The silent storm was brief and over in a while. Kinabig siya nito. I did not mean to hurt you, Audrey. Bahagya siyang tumango. Sa kauna-unahang pagkakataon, binanggit ito ang pinaikling pangalan niya. Di niya alam kung ano mararamdaman kung inusa ni Lloyd iyon habang nasa kainitan nito ng pag-aangkin sa kanya. May palagay siyang hindi niya kakayanin ang sakit na idudulot niyon. Tumaas baba ang dibdib nito sa paghinga ng malalim. Pinalipas muna nito ang ilang sandali bago muling nagsalita. When we met, you asked me why I owned a gun. Yeah, it was the barest of a whisper. Tumaas ang mukha niya upang tignan ito. He was staring at the ceiling. I work with the government. Wika nito. Meeting her eyes, she frowned. As what? Undercover. Hindi alam ni Audrey ang bahaging iyon ng trabaho ko. Si Annie hindi niya alam. Si Kel at ang ama namin lamang nakakaalam. Kahit ang mama hindi alam yun. The irony of it was that I protected other people's lives. Nililigtas ko sila sa pagkapahamak, pero hindi ko nagawang iligtas sa mga mahal ko sa buhay. You weren't there, she whispered. And if you were, hindi ka nakatitiyak sa maaring mangyari. Maaring wala nakaligtas sa inyong lahat. I have wondered about that a million times. Many times in the past, I wish I was with them that day. Died with them. Naiintindihan niya ang damdaming iyon. Nung mamatay ang mga magulang niya, halos kainin ang buong pagkatao niya ng guilt. Nabuhay siya at namatay ang mga ito. That her father chose to die with her mother when he could have saved himself too. Dinugtungan pa nito ang sinabi makalipas ng ilang sandali. LJ was not my son. Annie is already pregnant with him when I married her. Alam yun ng buong pamilya ko. She was genuinely surprised. Muli niya itong tiningala. Umangat ang ulo ni Lloyd sa pagkakahiga. Inilagay ang kamay sa mukha niya at tinaas iyon. Then he gave her a tongue kiss. Mabilis na muling nagdingas ang apoy sa katawan niya, subalit hindi niya gustong pansinin iyon. Lloyd was opening up. Na magtrabaho sa amin si Annie, may boyfriend na siya. Isa sa mga kilalang angkan sa vegan kung saan siya nagtapos ng pag-aaral. When the bastard learned that she was pregnant, he went abroad. It broke Annie's heart. Hindi ko siya miminsang nakikitang umiiyak. I was really attracted to her since day one. I like tall, voluptuous, and big-breasted women. And Annie was that. But I stayed away because of her boyfriend. When the jerk abandoned her, I offered marriage. Huminto ito sandali sa pagsasalita na tila naghihintay ng komento niya sa bahaging iyon ng pagtatapat nito. But she kept her silence. I was young, kabi-kabilang girlfriends, but marrying Annie made me feel like a hero. Not to mention that I really had this big crush on her. She refused at first but she had no choice. She had no one. Maliban kay Manang Vicky dahil sa kumbento siya lumaki at alam niyang lalaki ang anak niya na walang kakilalaning ama. Tinanggap niya ang aloko. I gave my name to LJ and learned to love him. Really love him as my own. And my attraction to Annie, it turned to love. Strange but her sensual appearance was a contradiction to her character. She was quiet and submissive. Wala ko natatandang kinontra niya ako. She was a homebody too. All that represented everything I wanted in a woman. And she had learned to love me too. But there are also times when I doubted her love for me. He gave a brief humorless laugh. Hindi ko siya nakitang nagalit man lang sa akin. Bawat sabihin ko ay parang batas para sa kanya. At bawat pagkakamali ni LJ sa akin, kinagagalitan niyang bata. Para bang hindi niya gusto magkamali silang mag-ina sa akin? It was as if they were both walking in a tightrope when I was around. Niyoko siya nito, pero hindi niya kayang komentuhan iyon. It wasn't normal. She knew I loved them both. Pero hindi ko miminsang naisip kung minahal lang talaga ako ni Annie o tumatanaw lang siya ng utang na loob dahil sa pagpapakasal ko sa kanya at pagbibigay ng pangalan kay LJ. O hanggang sa mga sandali ng kanyang kamatayan ay ang ama ni LJ pa rin naktago sa puso niya. That's ridiculous. Hindi halos lumabas sa bibig niya ang tinig. Hindi niya alam kung bakit sinasabi sa kanya ni Lloyd iyon. May iba't ibang paraan ng mga babae sa pagpapakita ng pag-ibig, Lloyd. Annie was probably the passive type. She reached for his hand and held it. Lloyd's fingers closed over hers, at dinala nito ang kamay niya sa bibig nito at hinagkan iyon. You could be right, he said in an uncompromising voice. But when the tragedy happened, Annie was 2 months pregnant. His voice broke. Oh God! Audrey squeezed her eyes shut. I never told anyone about it, not even Kiel until now. She could imagine his sufferings. Naintindihan niya rin kung bakit tinago nito sa kasamang namatay si Annie ang sana'y magiging anak nila. Hindi nito gustong higit na kaawaan. Hindi nito gustong malaman ng lahat na maliban sa mag-ina ay may isang buhay pa na naramay. A week before the tragedy, patuloy ni Lloyd, the three of us were celebrating Annie's pregnancy. LJ was so excited that he would become a big brother. His voice broke. May ilang beses tong humugot ng hininga bago ito nagpatuloy. And I stopped living since then. Pinamanhid ko ang sarili ko, ang damdamin ko. I don't want to lust or hunger or yearn. Pinanatili ko ang sarili ko sa kadiliman kung saan hindi ako maaaring makaramdam. Subalit parati ko silang kasama sa pagtulog ko. My son's laughter haunts me in my dreams. Then followed by Annie's face and a faceless child calling me for help. Then my father and mother would reach me, crawling and begging me to save them. Yumuko siya. Inihilig ang pisngi sa dibdib nito. Hindi niya gustong makita ni Lloyd ang pamumuo ng mga luha sa mga mata niya. He might mistook it for pity. Isang mahabang katahimikan na namagitan. Tag at pagtaas baba ng dibdib ni Lloyd ang naririnig niya. Hindi niya alam kung ano ang sasabihin o kung paano niya may padarama rito ang pagdamay. Lloyd was pulling her close against him as if he was wrapping her in his body and absorbing her into himself. It was a while before he spoke again in a calmer and controlled voice. After Kiel and I brought the man who was responsible for the murder of my whole life to justice, I took every dangerous assignments available. Isa sa mga yun ang naging dahilan para mapinsala ang likod ko. Doon siya napabangon. Ang sabi mo sa construction site mo nakuha ang pinsala mo sa likod. I half lied. Di ko sinabi sa'yo ang buong detalye. I wasn't ready to tell you all about my job. Sinabi nito kung gano'n nabagsakan ng debris ang likod. You could have died. Her voice filled with horror. Lloyd smiled softly. But I did not. His eyes trailed her naked body from head to toe. Ang kapaitan sa mga matay unti-unting nahalinhan ng pagnanasa. Pinamulahan siya ng muka. Mabilis niyang itinaas sa mga binti at niyakap yun upang takpan ang kahubaran. Nang makita na kataping kumot sa ulo na nito, inabot iyon pero inawat siya ni Lloyd. Inihagis pa nito ang kumot sa sahig. Leave it that way. His fingers caressed her arm. Pinaglalaroan ng balahibong pusa niya sa braso. It was your first time and all I did was hurt you. Umiling siya. No, it was... Wala siyang maapuhap na tamang salita. I did not make it good for you. Muli nitong hinagod ang tingin ng kabuuan niya. Flame flared in her eyes. If only you weren't too slim and fragile. A shy smile came out of her lips. I took you. Didn't I? And there is such thing as making it up. She was astounded by her own boldness. Malibang... She left her voice trail off. Malibang ano? You're back, Lloyd. She said at biglang nag-alala. Baka nakasama ang... Damn! He swore savagely. Inabot siya nito at parang binalik sa pagkakahiga. Pagkatapos ang kamay nito'y naglakbay patungo sa dibdib niya, kneading her breasts softly one after the other. Audrey moaned sexily and then gasped when he loved one nipple with his tongue. The throbbing of his manhood in her thighs excited her as it started to swell. Nagtaas na mukha si Lloyd at tinunghayan siya. Even if my back kills me, my little rose, I will make it up to you. He closed the distance between their faces and kissed her lips. Nagising si Audrey na pumapasok ang init ng araw sa silid niya. Napabalikwas siya. Inikot ang tingin sa paligid. Nasa sariling silid siya at suot na niyang muli ang pantulog niya. Binuhat pa siya ni Lloyd pabalik sa silid niya? Where was he? Was it all a dream? No. Ang nararamdaman niya sa katawan ay nagsasabing hindi pa naginip ang nangyari kagabi. Her body was tender in some parts. A soft smile came out of her lips as memories of last night crept into her mind. True to his words, The pain in his back was less of his worries. She had learned the art of love in one whole night. He was an excellent teacher and she was willing to learn from him. It was hard to believe that a man could want a woman as insatiably as Lloyd had. It was as if he couldn't get enough of her. Nilingan niya ang relo sa nightstand. 2:00 ng hapon. Yun ang oras na ibinabadya ng relo. Patamad siyang bumangon. Inayos niya ang sarili. Nagbihis at lumabas ng silid at bumaba. Nagulat pa siya na makita sa kusina si Luis. Hindi niya inaasang nakauwi na mga ito. Naghahanda ito ng mga ingredient para sa lulutuing pancake. Eric was nowhere around. Hi! Bati nito na makita siya. Ang mga mata nito ay tumaas-baba sa kabuuan niya na tila nanunuri. Anong oras kayo dumating? How is your overnight in Santo Tomas? She asked. Dumiretso sa cupboard at kumuha ng tasa para magtimpla ng kape. It didn't matter if it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but she had to have her morning cup of coffee. An hour ago. Binasag nito ang 3 itlog sa malalaking bowl. Eric enjoyed it immensely. He loved the place. Where is Andre? Naupo siya and sipped her coffee. Nagaya si Andre sa dagat. Mamumulot daw ng shells. Napulit ka kakabagawi at hinapon ka ng gising? She asked sarcastically. Tinitigan ang mga telltale signs sa mga balikat. Audrey groaned her embarrassment. Kaninang nakita na niya sa salamin ang buong katawan niya. Naging maingat si Lloyd na wag mag-iwan ng marka sa bahagi ng katawan niyang nakahantad. But no part of her body was left untouched and unloved. Hindi niya naisip na nakauwi na si Luis at Eric, or else she have worn something to cover her shoulder base. They are not takers anymore, Audrey. Patuloy ni Luis na bahagyang nanlaki ang mga mata. They're almost bruises. Lloyd is that wild, huh? I can imagine what's underneath your clothings. Her voice filled with malice. Shut up, Luis. Kinakabahan siyang kung nasa paligid lang si Lloyd ay marinig nito ang sinasabi ng tiyahin. Tumayo siya. Bit-bit ang kapit, binuksan ang pinto sa kusina at sumilip sa labas, expecting to see Lloyd outside. Subalit wala ito roon. Lumakad siya pabalik para malabas patungo sa sala. Oh, Louise said with exaggeration, watching her intently. Nakalimutan kong sabihin sa'yo. Nang dumating kami, nagpaalam na rin si Lloyd. May importante daw siyang lalakarin. Ipinapasabi sa'yo. Tatawagan ka na lang daw niya. He took your cell phone from your car and asked me to recharge it. Lumingon ito sa sala. Naroon ang cellphone niya malapit sa TV at naka-recharge. Hindi niya pinansin ang tono ng tiyahin. Bigla siya nakaramdam ng panghihina at bumalik sa upuan. Hindi niya alam kung ano ang dapat asahan sa morning after. Pero ang malamang wala na si Lloyd sa bahay matapos ang pinagsaluhan nila sa buong magdamag, nagdudulot sa kanya ng sakit sa dibdib. Had he felt guilt and remorse for what happened between them? Had he felt so exposed and defenseless last night after he told her about his anguish, his need, and the way he had lost control over her? Iniisip din ba nitong naging traidor ito sa sarili sa pagsasabi sa kanya kung anong trabaho nito na kahit si Annie ay hindi nalaman? O di kaya ang pagtatapat nito sa kanya tungkol sa nakaraan ni Annie bago niya ito pakasalan? May takot na nagdaan sa dibdib niya. Hindi takot para sa tao nagtatangka sa buhay niya. But she was afraid that Lloyd would vanish into thin air. That he would never see her again. Mayroon ka bang dapat sabihin tungkol sa relasyon ni Lloyd, Audrey? Pukaw ni Louise sa pag-iisip. Pumormal ang tinig nito. You cannot just sleep around. Goodness sake, Louise. I am not sleeping around. You may not believe this, but Lloyd is the only man in my life, and I don't regret what happened between us last night. Hindi agad sumagot si Louise. Inabot ang lata ng gatas sa mesa at isinalin sa measuring cup. Eric doesn't like him. Wika nito sa malamig na tinig. He considered Lloyd too mysterious and too arrogant. Alam mo naman si Eric, tinuturing ang sariling padre ng pamilya sa ating dalawa at iniisip niyang pinagsasamantalahan ka ni Lloyd. That Lloyd is a man of the world, only a passing ship at night, at yan ang pinag-aalalan ni Eric, Audrey. What about you, Louise? Anong opinion mo kay Lloyd? She challenged. Bahaw na tumawa si Louise. He is gorgeous, he is rich. Dinaanan nito ng tingin ng mga balikat niya. And must be very good in bed. If I were 10 years younger, I would be your enemy. Napatitig sa tiyahin si Audrey. Inulit sa isip ang sinabi nito. I would be your enemy. May doble bang kahulugan iyon? Was her aunt want her dead? Dito mapupunta ang lahat ng pag-aari ng mga Santillan sa sandaling mamatay siya dahil nag-iisa niya na itong kamag-anak. At ngayong magre-retiro ito sa pag-artista sa telebisyon, magiging dependent na lang ito sa income ni Eric. Which wasn't enough. kung pag-uusapan ay ang pagiging maluho ni Luis. Luis' laughter vanished when she spoke again. It is probably none of my business, Audrey, but you are my niece. At napag-isip-isip kong tama si Eric. Nananamantala lamang ang lalaking yun. Bakit narito siya tuwing wala kami ni Eric? Bigla siya nakadama ng iritasyon. Tama ka. It is none of your business. Tulad din ng hindi ko pinakikialaman kayong dalawa ni Eric. Tinulak niya ang kape palayo sa kanya. Hindi sumagot si Luis at tinitigan lang siya. Pagkawa itinauna nito ang atensyon sa pagluluto. Nasa kalagitnaan na siya ng hagdan papanhik na magring ang cellphone niya sa sala. Inaasahan na niya na si Lloyd iyon. Nagmamadaling bumaba siya ulit at halos takbuhin ang patungo sa kanilalagyan niyon. Hello? Audrey? Hindi nga siya nagkamali. Si Lloyd ang nasa kabilang linya and her heart leaped at the sound of his voice. Where are you? Tanong niya. Sa bayan. How are you? He asked huskily. Naginit ang mukha niya sa tanong na iyon. I'm fine. I wish I was there when you woke up. I'd like to make love to you again in the morning, sweetheart. Under the sun. Sa kabila ng pumumula, hindi niya mapigilang mapangiti. Hate spread through her body down to the middle of her thighs. This is an obscene call, Mr. Montilla, and it's illegal. He laughed. Anyway, listen to this. Bago ako umalis patungong Maynila, may mga kinausap akong tao. Some I borrowed to do little favors for me. Ang iba mga kakilala ng papa na nabubuhay pa ito. At may natuklasan ako tungkol sa mga Lopez. Napasulap sa kusina si Audrey. Nasa lababo si Luis. Nililinis sa mga ginamit sa pagluluto. Ano ang ibig mong sabihin? Kinakabahang tanong niya. Natuklasan kong bago namatay ang asawa ni Rica Lopez, na-dispal ko ito ng malaking salapi sa bangko pinagtatrabahuhan. Napahugot siya ng hininga. Parang nahuhulaan na niya ang kasunod itong sasabihin. Rica was broke. Nakasangla at bahay ang tupa nila sa bayan. Patuloy pa nito. Nalulong sa sugal ang asawa niya at naisang lang lahat ng kabuhayan. You could be right in your hunch about the financial record kahit di ko pa nakikita. It was probably doctored. At alam nang tiyahin mo ang lahat ng to, Audrey. Kinaumagahan pagdating Luis sa Santa Clarita, sinamahan niya mismo si Rica Lopez para garantiyan ito sa bangko para hindi ma-foreclose ang property nito. Napaungol si Audrey doon. Muling sinulyapan ang tiyahin sa kusina. She felt betrayed. Nagpatuloy si Lloyd. At ito pa, kinausap ni Luis ang manager ng bangko dahil sa hindi pagbabayad ng amortization para sa lupang binili ng lolo mo. Pinangako nito na sa sandaling makaahon ng farm, babayaran din kaagad yun. So there, alam na natin ngayon kung bakit di sapat ang remittances ni Rica Lopez. Higit sa lahat, magbabayad ka na napakalaking interes sa bangko for the late payment of the amortization. So Rica embezzled money from the farm's income. Rage rose in her chest. Accessory ang sarili niyang tiyahin sa panloloko ni Rica Lopez. Hindi niya alam kung anong iisipin. Gusto niyang umiyak sa galit at sama ng loob sa tiyahin. Nagpatuloy pa si Lloyd. Hindi ko sinasabi may kinalaman sila sa nagtatangka sa iyo, Audrey. Kailangan pa natin ng matibay na pruweba sa bagay na yan. Pero gusto ko malaman mo tungkol sa embezzlement. May kakausapin lang akong tao at pagkatapos, uuwi ako kay naman ng Vicky at magpapalit ng damit. I will call you from there. And darling? He paused. Be careful. Tinapos ni Lloyd ang pag-uusap nila. And she stood there like a statue, feeling scared that she had never been before. Sapat na mga dahilang sinabi ni Lloyd upang pag-isipan ng tiyahin na mawala siya sa landas ito. Tama si Lloyd. Salapi ang dahilan kung bakit pinagtatangkaan siya. Mamanahin ni Luis ang ari-arian ng mga santilyan sa sandaling mawala siya. At natulungan pa nito si Rica Lopez. She knew they were more than friends. Para magkapatid ang turingan ng dalawa. But for heaven's sake, pamangkin siya ni Luis. Magkadugo sila. Isa rin itong santilyan. At si Eric, was he involved in this? Siya bang umatake sa kanya sa parking lot sa utos na rin ni Luis? Yun ba ang dahilan kung bakit kilala siya ng attacker niya? At nang araw na matuklasan nila ang tungkol sa patay na aso sa kusina niya, ay ang araw din ng pagdating ni Luis at Eric sa Santa Clarita. She panicked. Patakbo niyang pinanhik ang silid niya sa itaas at kinuha ang susi ng kotse sa bag niya at nagmamadaling lumabas ng bahay. Narinig niyang tinatanong siya ni Luis kung saan siya pupunta, pero hindi lang siya sumagot. Gusto niyang tumakbo palayo mula sa tiyahin, but she had to get Andre. Kailangan muna niyang puntahan si Eric sa dagat. Kasama nito si Andre. Oh God! Di siya makapaniwala magkakasabot ang tatlo. But surely they wouldn't kill her in broad daylight. May ilang tao siya natatanaw sa dagat na naliligo. It was a private beach, gayon may hindi maiwasang may naliligaw roon mula sa kabilang panig ng beach. That made her feel a little bit safe. Pero hindi na niya kailangang magtungo sa dagat dahil natanaw niyang paparating na sina Eric at Andre. Sinalubong niya mga ito. Mabilis na kinarga si Andre. Pagkatapos ay bumalik patungo sa kotse niya. She was trying to act normal. Hey, saan kayo pupunta? Basa ang damit ni Andre. Sigaw ni Eric na nagsalubong ang mga kilay. Di niya ito pinansin at binuksan ang pinto ng kotse niya. Bago pa niya maipasok si Andre, narinig niyang isinisigaw ni Eric na flat ang dalawang gulong. She groaned in frustration. Magkasama ang galit, sama ng loob at takot na mabilis niyang tinunto ng daan patungo sa labas ng resort. Hindi ininda na mabigat ang batang karga. May tricycle na paroot pa rito sa latang sandali. Kinamanang Vicky na lamang niya hihintayin si Lloyd. Ano nangyari doon at bigla na lang tumalilis? Tanong ni Eric kay Luis na sumungaw sa may balkon. Ang mga matay nakasunod kay Audrey na nagmamadali. Nagkasalubong ang kilay ni Luis na hinahin ang tinitingnan ni Eric. Naguguluhang nagkibit ng mga balikat.